So I have been told to give a class on 5th canto. Is it audible, Mataji?
Yes, Prabhuji. It's good.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Everyone can hear, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Okay, thank you. Now I can know that all of you can hear. Thank you. So I'm going to start now. This is 5th canto, the chapter number 5, entitled Lord Rishabhdeva's Teachings to His Sons. Text number 6. Om Namo Bhagavate Vāsudevāya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vāsudevāya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vāsudevāya. Narayanam namaskrityam naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jaya mudhiraye nashtaprayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavate ruttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtaki krishnaya vasudevaya devaki nandanaya cha nandagopa kumaraya govindaya namo namah. Namo pankaja nabhaya, namo pankaja maline, namo pankaja netraya, namaste pankajangre. Text number 6, 5th chapter. Evaṁ karma-vaśaṁ prayuṅkte avidyayātmany upadhīyamāne prītir yāvan mayi vāsudeve na mucyate deha-yogena tāvat. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. When the living entity is covered by the mode of ignorance, it does not understand the individual living being and the supreme living being, and his mind is subjugated by fruitive activity. Therefore, until one has love for Lord Vāsudeva, who is none other than myself, he is certainly not delivered from having to accept a material body again and again. Purport: when the mind is polluted by fruitive activity, the living entity wants to be elevated from one material position to another. Generally, everyone is involved in working hard day and night to improve his economic condition. Even when understands the Vedic rituals, he becomes interested in promotion to heavenly planets, not knowing that one's real interest lies in returning home back to Godhead. By acting on the platform of fruitive activity, one wanders throughout the universe in different species and forms. Unless he comes in contact with the devotee of the Lord, a guru, he does not become attached to the service of Lord Vāsudeva. Knowledge of Vāsudeva requires many births to understand. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 7.19, Vāsudeva sarvam iti sa mahatma sudurlabha. After struggling for existence for many births, one may take shelter at the lotus feet of Vāsudeva, Krishna. When this happens, one actually becomes wise and surrenders unto him. That is the only way to stop the repetition of birth and death. This is confirmed in Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya 19.151 in the instructions given by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Srila Rupa Goswami at the Shashwat-medha Ghat. Brahmanda Brahmite Kona Bhagyavan Jeev Guru Krishna Prasade Pae Bhakti Lata Beach. The living entity wanders throughout different planets in different forms and bodies. But if by chance he comes in contact with the bona fide spiritual master, by the grace of the spiritual master, he receives Lord Krishna's shelter and his devotional life begins. Om Ajnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Et Kripatamaham Vande Shri Guru Dhanatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Sri Chaitanyam Ishwaram. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschata Deshatarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. My sincere gratitude to all of you for once again giving an opportunity to serve you by speaking on Srimad Bhagavatam, which I will do now for my own purification and for the pleasure of all the assembled devotees who have come online to serve Srimad Bhagavatam by rendering submissive oral reception. In today's very instructive chapter and verse, Vrishabhdev, who is the Supreme Lord, is instructing how without developing love for the Lord, we cannot end the cycle of repeated birth and death. Vrishabhdev is explaining how human life is extremely important because this is an opportunity that all of us have been given to end this cycle of transmigration, of repeated birth and death. And the result of sense gratification and karma is we take birth again and again. Just imagine taking birth again, going to school, then job, then marriage, then again diseases, anxiety, relationship problems, so many challenges, then again death, then again birth. So Srila Prabhupada writes emphatically, and Vrishabhdev is explaining to his sons that prītir mayi vāsudeve, only when we develop love for Krishna can this cycle end permanently. Srila Prabhupada, one lecture, he gives a very graphic example, which I feel shy to share, but Srila Prabhupada said it, so we can repeat his words. Srila Prabhupada had this amazing ability to drive home a point very emphatic with a very graphic example. He said once two pigs were fighting over a lump of stool that was lying on the side of the road. And it was afternoon time, and one pig said that, oh, the top part of the stool is very crispy because of the sunlight that has fallen on it. It is very tasty. The other pig was arguing, saying that no, the bottom part is better because it is juicy and succulent. So Srila Prabhupada asked the laughing devotees that which of the two is better, the top part or the middle part, which is juicy, the crispy part or the juicy part. So as devotees were in splits, Srila Prabhupada also was laughing and he said, both are horrible, right? Similarly, Srila Prabhupada said, whether you do pious activity or sinful activity, pious activity is definitely better as long as we're in the material world, because we need to help people, we need to contribute, we need to serve. That's part of human dharma, varnashram dharma, so there is no doubt about it. But from the point of view of pure devotional service and from the point of view of wanting to end our cycle of repeated birth and death, in that context when we see, then both pious and impious activities become like the top part of the stool and the bottom part, in the sense both are useless. Srila Prabhupada, in one lecture I was hearing recently, he was telling, there's in America, he was telling the devotees that you are American young boys and girls, do you know that you were very pious? That's why you got birth in America, a wealthy country. Here even a common man has car. In India only a wealthy man has a car. So he was glorifying them, and then he said, but you are very wealthy, but now if you don't practice devotional service, all your pious credit should be exhausted, and again you have to take birth. And when you take birth again, Kali would have made so much more advancement. Maya would offer so much more distractions. And it would be very difficult for anyone to practice devotional service as Kali Yuga progresses. So don't take your good karma for granted. Perfect your life now. Srila Prabhupada always had this amazing appeal and sense of urgency in his presentation of Krishna consciousness. He wanted devotees to grab the opportunity of human form of life and finish our business in this one lifetime and go back to Krishna. Because, see, the problem is not simply that we are stuck up in the material world. The problem is not simply the repeated birth and death. The main problem is when we engage in materialistic activities. Bhaktivinoda Thakur has beautifully echoed this. What actually happens? In one of his bhajans, famous bhajans, he says, Asha pasha shata shata klesha deya abhirata pravritti urmira tahekela pravritti urmira tahekela. He says that so many desires and so many activities, they are like a noose, they bind us. Asha, pasha, shata, shata, what they give us is klesha, suffering. But the worst part is pravritti urmira tahekela. These activities increase the tendency to engage in those very activities more. So more than giving us another birth, what sense gratification does is it increases the tendency to engage in that very act again and again. So you see what a terrible disaster it is. Means two things happen. One is we get reactions for our sense gratification by getting another birth. But the bigger problem is our propensity to engage in those activities becomes more intense. So then he explains further that that's how we get trapped. Kama, krodha, adi, choy, batapodi, deha, boy, avasana, oibo, ashigela. He says that that's how lust, greed, anger, all of them enter our system. And what they do to us, they increase fear, they increase insecurities in our lives. And eventually, avasana, hoilo, asibela, eventually we realize I'm nearing death. I'm going to die now. And what do we do? Often, even as devotees, we get trapped in this mood. We think, okay, I'm going to end the cycle of birth and death. What I will do now is I will use my brains and I will try to control my life, and we take shelter of intense knowledge acquiring activity or intense activities, physical activities. We engage in karma and jnana, forgetting that ultimately we have to develop love for Krishna. Prītir na mayi vāsudeve. Today's verse is very emphatic. We have to develop love for Krishna. That's what Bhaktivinoda Thakur says in his bhajans, that this jnana and karma, they are like dacoits. Jnana, karma, thaga, dui, more pratariya loi, avasheshe, phele sindhu jale, avasheshe, phele sindhu jale. So this is a verse from Bhaktivinoda Thakur's famous bhajan called Anadi Karma Phale. You can later on search, you will find it everywhere on the internet, folio, Vedabase, everywhere it's there. It's a very famous bhajan of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, where he's saying that jnana and karma are two dacoits. They have caught hold of me and they've robbed me of my love for Krishna. And what they have done? Avasheshe phele sindhu jale. They have thrown me into this ocean of suffering. So our suffering is accentuated in material world because we are taking shelter of our own intelligence and our materialistic activities. So therefore, the devotee is appealing loudly, He no samaye bandhu, tumi Krishna kripa sindhu. At this time, you are my bandhu, you are my friend Krishna, you are kripa sindhu. I am suffering in ocean of suffering, but you are the ocean of kripa. Kripa karo loho more bale. He's saying, please be merciful and pick me up from the ocean of suffering and put me in the ocean of kripa, mercy, so that I can develop attraction for you, so that I can develop love for you. So therefore, this is the goal that Srila Prabhupada wanted us to have, that somehow we develop our dormant attraction for Krishna through devotional service. We need to begin by constantly asking, repeatedly, time to time, Krishna, I want to offer this to you. I want to develop love for you. In today's purport, Srila Prabhupada is so emphatically saying that the very first line, that how we often foolishly try to change our material situation from one position to another, thinking that if I adjust this, I will get better. But Srila Prabhupada dismissed it by saying that if a prisoner is in a very bad prison cell with no facilities and is removed from that prison and put in a air-conditioned room, which is also a prison cell with library and swimming pool facilities, but still he is in a prison. Just making better adjustments is not going to solve the problem. As devotees, we need to constantly remember that out of 8.4 million forms of life, 4 lakh or 400,000 human life species, which is a very, very rare. Human life is very rare, and we have got this human life. We want to go back to Godhead. And the best part is, unlike in the Semitic religions, Judo, Christianity, Islam, where they say God is up there in the heaven, we are so blessed that Krishna is not only there in the spiritual world inviting us, but he also comes to this world in the form of holy name. He's also here for us. And we can connect with him here. We can experience Krishna in our lives now, develop our love for him, and then happily go back to him after this life. See, one of the things that the atheistic people say, God is nowhere. So devotees are smart. They agree with the atheists when they say this phrase, God is nowhere. But what they do, they take that word nowhere and they divide it into 2 words. So it becomes God is N-O-W-H-E-R-E. So they divide it at the N-O-W, they break it. So what it happens, what the word becomes, the sentence becomes, God is now here. God is now here in the form of holy name, in the form of Katha, in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam class, in the form of his deities. So the main difference between the atheistic people and Hare Krishna devotees is, by Srila Prabhupada's mercy, we have a different aspiration. We want, see, the non-devotees, generally the atheistic people, they want to make this world a better place. They want to squeeze out as much happiness as possible from this body, from this world. As long as I'm alive, let me somehow make it. Let me somehow enjoy. Let me squeeze as much happiness as possible. Because, and a non-devotee will admit, yes, there are some problems in this world, but I can solve them and we can solve them. We can make it a better place. We can solve the problems of this world. But a devotee of Krishna understands that this world itself is a problem. What to speak of solving the problems of this world? In the ancient Greece, they had a very nice system of punishing the criminals. So they would have a hillock where a criminal would have to, from the ground, you would have to take a big round stone and you would have to push it up a hill. That would be very exhausting. So the criminal would keep pushing the stone up and you would take it to the top of the hill. He would be panting and huffing. But at that particular spot, at the top of the hill where he would be standing with that rock, the policeman would be already there and he would push the stone and the stone would come gliding down. And then the prisoner had to go down again and again push the stone up the hill. That was his punishment. He would have to do that the whole day. Actually, this is our punishment also in this world. From childhood, as we grow, we start pushing the responsibility, the rock of our responsibilities. And finally, at the age of 75, 80, at last I'm settled. All my children are married. I have my own house. I have my comforts. It's like we have taken the rock up. But then material energy pushes the rock down. Again, we have to take birth. Again, we have to begin from zero, start all our responsibilities. Therefore, there is a saying in many religions, they say that this world is like a bridge. We do not make houses on the bridge. We use the bridge to cross over. Like we are in an island called the material world and there is a spiritual world. So we have to go to that world, So this life is like a bridge. It's not that we make permanent settlements in this world. But unfortunately, what happens is because of ignorance, avidya, we try to solve the problems of our lives at a very superficial level and without understanding the ultimate picture of Krishna consciousness without understanding that I have to engage in my responsibilities in such a way that I can eventually go back home, back to Godhead, without seeing the Krishna element. When I try to solve my problems of this world, my solutions, they create a bigger problem than the original problem. Like in a simple example, I'm right now giving a class on my laptop, and I have very poor technology knowledge. I just know the basics. Now, if my laptop conks off and I'm in ignorance, I have no knowledge. Now, in ignorance, if I try to solve this problem of the computer, the laptop, and I open up the hard disk, I am going to land up with a bigger mess than the original problem. So in ignorance, what we need is knowledge. But in ignorance, when we try to solve the problem, we create a much bigger problem. If you don't know cooking and you enter the kitchen and you say, okay, I'm going to make rasgulla, and I love rasgulla, and rasgulla is very sweet, it is round and it is white. So you pick up anything and you try anything, you're going to create a bigger mess of the kitchen. Or, sometime one day our tap in our bathroom in the Brahmachari ashram, it got spoiled and the water was leaking. And one devotee isn't a plumber, he doesn't know anything, but in his frenzy, he tried to repair it and he created a bigger mess. There was water all around. So the point is, happiness is what we are all looking for. So this is a solution. This is a need which all of us have. But in ignorance, not understanding that why I'm unhappy, when I try to solve this problem of unhappiness, the problem of suffering of this world, I land up creating a much bigger problem. I was a student of economics before I became a Hare Krishna devotee. And I remember I would feel very amused at all these economic models that we studied in college. I remember in particular, we had one Lewis model of something. I don't remember, vaguely I remember now, that how, this particular economic model was that you increase the wage structure in the urban areas by a certain percentage, and then you can have more labor force coming from the villages to the city, and you can solve the problem of unemployment in the cities. So something like that. So government of Kenya, 1964, they tried that. So I remember making this as part of a research paper. I'm talking about 1992, we had studied this. And I remember we coming to that and discovering that how the government had made this change, but a large number of people, much more people came to the cities than what they needed, because they saw this better facilities and better prospects. So it was a much larger people turnout than what the government wanted. And these people didn't want to go back to the villages, surplus people. They wanted to remain in the city. So what happened then? That this excess labor couldn't be accommodated. So the unorganized sector became more rampant. The slums started growing. And the government had a much bigger problem on hand. And like this, trust me, all the economic models we would study, we would have to answer only 4 questions in the final exams. And each of them would be on some different economic model. And every question was like, write a critical analysis of this economic theory, or write the limitations of this theory. And first paragraph would be some positive things about that. And the next 10-15 pages would be only on how this theory has limitations. Every economic model creates more problems. That's the nature of this world. That doesn't mean we don't solve the problems. Again, don't get me wrong. Let us not go to the other extent. We have certain responsibilities. We remember Krishna. We chant Hare Krishna. We develop our love for Krishna, and we do our best in this world. But at the same time, we know that there is a certain limitation to what we can do in this world. And then we are detached. And then we want to get out of this world. There was a sadhu who had a big beard, and he was sitting under a tree and saying, I practice non-violence, I'm a sadhu, I meditate. So he was sitting under the tree, and one ant fell on the beard. And he said, oh, this ant, I'm a non-violent practitioner, I have to put the ant back to the branch. So he went to the branch from where the ant had fallen, and he told the ant, okay, my dear ant, please go back to the branch. He was trying to push the ant back, and suddenly a large number of ants fell on his beard, who were all there in the branch. Now the Sadhu's beard was filled with ants, and to save his beard, he ran to a nearby pond and he jumped in and washed off his beard, and all the ants were cleared from his beard, and all of them died. So he tried to save one ant, but he ended up killing so many ants. Earlier, we had a problem of walking. People couldn't walk for so many hours, so they created automobiles. And now we have pollution problem. Which is a bigger problem? Breathing problem or walking problem? So the point is, all advancement, all progress is very good, because now because of scientific progress, they're able to have Zoom classes. So we're not against technology. We're not against advancement. The point is, these activities in this material world have inherent limitations, because this world is designed to not give us permanent shelter. But the soul is Sat-Chit Ananda, the soul is eternal, looking for pure consciousness and pure bliss. And this world cannot provide, because this world depends on everything external. Srila Prabhupada would give a simple example. Just imagine your beautiful eyes. In this world, some people have very beautiful eyes. They are called Meenakshi, eyes like a fish, or eyes like Kamala Lochana, eyes like the lotus flower, lotus petals. So you may have the most beautiful eyes, and you may not be blind. You may be able to see the world. But even if you have the beautiful eyes and you are not blind, can you still see on your own? Ask yourself. Srila Prabhupada asked this question once. Can we see anything of this world, even if you had the best eyes? Or if you had the most beautiful nose? Can you smell if there is no oxygen? If you have the best eyes, if there is no light in the external world, if there is no torch, if there is absolute darkness, if there is no light at all, can you see even with the most beautiful eyes? We can't. We need light external of us in this world. We need oxygen to breathe. So, this body, this world has inherent limitations, because this is a world of darkness, tamas. So we need light outside. But the Bhagavad Gita says there is another reality. Paras tasmatu bhavonyo vekto vektat sanatana ehasa sarveshu bhuteshu nashyat suna vinashyati. And that is a superior reality, which is the reality of the soul, which is self-illuminated. So when we practice bhakti, the whole idea is to trigger or to switch on that inbuilt light of the soul. It is what is we call self-realization, the connection with Krishna. So all the devotional activities, because that's what Srila Prabhupada often said, that Krishna consciousness is not artificial. It is not a foreign imposition on the mind. It is dormant. It is like Rupa Goswami says, Nectar of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, it is like a child learning to walk. Walking is inherently there in the child, but he practices and then he starts walking naturally. Similarly, loving Lord is very natural for us. That is the nature of the soul. And if we practice a little bit of devotional service, that will be reactivated. And then everything will fall in place. All the dots should be connected. And we will be able to complete our responsibilities in this life and then go back home, back to Godhead. But unfortunately, we repeatedly suffer again and again because of our enjoyer tendency. Srila Prabhupada would often give the example that if a woman, she dresses like a man, or a man starts behaving like a woman by dressing like a woman, and he starts talking and having behavior, and he's a man and he has manly qualities or manly chivalry or whatever. But when he tries to act like a woman, at some point of time he would get frustrated because that's not natural for him. Similarly, when the soul tries to be an enjoyer in this world, at some point of time, this is not sustainable. This is the most unnatural condition. That is why Srila Prabhupada often, he would quote this verse from the first canto, when he would implore the devotees that we need to seek something higher, not simply be satisfied with eating, sleeping, mating and defending. Taseva heto prayateta kovido na labhyate yad brahmatamu paryada talabhyate dukkhavadanyata sukham kale na sarvatra gabhira ramasa. Narad Muni when he's instructing Srila Vāsudeva, he says that the hetu, the purpose, the intelligent person, Kovida, the purpose of the intelligent person is, he tries to get that, na labhyate yad brahmatamuparyada. He tries to get that which is not available by going to all the planetary systems in this material world. That which is beyond the material world. And what is that? Talabhyate dukkhavatanyata sukham. And that is not happiness, because happiness in this world we get easily, just like we get distress without asking. See, we get pleasure in this world without asking. I sometimes see in the slums, children are playing in that gutter water, drainage water, which all the stool and urine and pus and mucus lands up there. It's so stinking, it's horrible water, but children are blissfully swimming there. So people can find pleasures even in the most horrible places. And just like we don't ask for distress, but the distress comes without our asking, Srila Prabhupada and Narad Muni are assuring us that without our asking, we will get pleasures in this material world. So don't look for mitigation of misery, don't look for relief, look for something higher. Now that doesn't mean we squelch our natural emotions. This doesn't mean we don't have normal exchanges with our family. No, that is not the point. The point is having a higher aspiration is important, because dukkha and sukha are part of the game of this material world. Like how many of us here? Let us be honest, I see 52 devotees have come online for this class, and there are some devotees on YouTube. Now, let me ask you a very simple question. How many of us actually pray that let me fail in exams, or let me meet with an accident, or let my house catch fire, or let this person I love, let him die? No, we don't ask for these things. We don't ask that some person we love gets cancer. We don't ask for any of these things, but don't these things happen to us? It happens, right? Similarly, we don't have to ask for pleasures in this world. We get our moments of happiness. But Srimad Bhagavatam is appealing to us that seek something higher. What is that? Talabhyate dukkhavat anyata sukham kale na sarvatra gabhira ramasa. Ramasa means a great force. Narad Muni is telling Vāsudeva that a great force called time will finish off all our endeavors for dukkha and sukha. We need to become intelligent and seek something higher, something more purposeful, something more defining. That aspiration Srila Prabhupada wanted us to have, which is to go back home, back to Godhead, go back to Krishna for an eternal life of bliss, while performing our duties in this life and this body maturely and responsibly. When Srila Prabhupada first time met his spiritual master, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, in Ulta Danga Road in Kolkata, that was a very, very fun, very curious incident that happened, and people were watching it on the road. Srila Prabhupada's friend Malik, Narendranath Malik, he was trying to pull Abhay Charan, that was Srila Prabhupada's legal name. He was trying to pull young Abhay to meet a saintly person called Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Prabhupada. But Abhay was not interested, because he had already seen many of these saints, and he thought they were quacks and they were not good, they were bogus sadhus. But his friend insisted, and then finally they had a kind of a altercation, and his friend won, and Prabhupada came in front of his guru, and he had just offered obeisances because he had learned this culture from his father. And even before he got up, and even before he had gathered a first impression, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur ordered Srila Prabhupada that you are a young, educated man. You should spread the message of Lord Chaitanya all over the world. Srila Prabhupada was shocked. As a young Gandhian, he was into the Indian freedom movement, and he was shocked that what is this person saying? So he challenged Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. He said, right now, independence of India is the most important need that we have. Nobody will listen to the message of God consciousness. Now, what Abhay was telling at that point of time, the whole world of India outside that Ulta Danga rooftop where the discussion was happening would have agreed with Abhay Charan. But Srila Prabhupada, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, was so emphatic. He said, Krishna consciousness is an emergency. It cannot wait for independence. We have to do our duties, but not forget the most important duty of connecting to Krishna. And this discussion lasted for more than an hour. And Abhay Charan was a changed man. His life dramatically changed after this meeting with this spiritual master. And since then, Srila Prabhupada, everywhere he spoke about the emergency of Krishna consciousness. In 1944, when he started Back to Godhead magazine, the government was not allowing paper to be supplied. Srila Prabhupada, whatever little paper he got, he wrote an article saying how, because that time the world war was going on, Srila Prabhupada said these are all temporary situations, but we need to spread the message of Godhead. Then in 1966, when he was in America, there was the Vietnam War, and the American government was drafting young men into the war against their wish. And Srila Prabhupada was in New York and giving a class on Bhagavad Gita, speaking on Krishna telling Arjuna to fight the battle of Mahabharata, or the war at Kurukshetra, and Arjuna is reluctant, and Prabhupada is telling in the class that when Krishna tells you to fight this war, it is important to follow this. So the boys there were a little appalled because they were listening to Srila Prabhupada's class, but the context and the background was the Vietnam War, and they didn't want to go to war. So when Srila Prabhupada was saying Krishna is telling Arjuna to fight and Arjuna should fight, they were taking it as, oh, should we go to Vietnam War? We shouldn't be going. So they were disturbed. And they would want Srila Prabhupada to address the Vietnam War rather than the Kurukshetra War which Srila Prabhupada was presenting. So when they asked and challenged Srila Prabhupada said, see, this war, Vietnam War, is not as important as understanding the war within and understanding Krishna, surrender to Krishna. So the young boys would think, and they would some of them would challenge Srila Prabhupada that if you're not addressing the Vietnam War, then what is your relevancy? This is the most important thing. And Srila Prabhupada implored them. He was challenging them to raise their level of understanding and cognizance by appealing to them that in some years the Vietnam War would be forgotten. But you would still have to go through diseases, old age and death, and then another birth. And this was consistently Srila Prabhupada's preaching. Then later on, I think a few years later when he was in India, New Delhi, suddenly there was a blackout. Pakistan was declared war on India, and General Yahya Khan there was a threat that he would be dropping bombs in Delhi. And Srila Prabhupada was with the reporter, and this reporter started panicking, and he said, oh, you should go and tell Yahya Khan not to have this war, our lives are in danger. And look at Srila Prabhupada's composure. He immediately counter-challenged that reporter by asking, if Yahya Khan doesn't drop bombs, wouldn't you die? Would you live forever? Is death not a reality? The reporter would say, no. We have to stop Yahya Khan. This is dangerous. Oh, there is a war. But Srila Prabhupada said, but war is always on. Why do you want? And that reporter kept saying that, please go and tell Yahya Khan to stop the war. And Prabhupada said, why do you want to flatter Yahya Khan? Flatter Krishna. Connect with Krishna. So Srila Prabhupada, he did not ignore the present reality, because there are many pastimes that Srila Prabhupada acknowledged where, one has to be undertaking his responsibilities, like Srila Prabhupada encouraging. There's one pastime where Srila Prabhupada encourages his American devotees, helping them have a transcendental patriotism. He tells them how America should become devotees of Krishna, and then they should fight against the terrorists, because some Cuban terrorists had, I think, they had attacked their naval ship and something had happened and Americans were angry. So Srila Prabhupada gave them a very inspiring patriotic talk also. So we are not against any of the dharma principle that exists in this world. The point is, are we also taking care of our ultimate goal of life? Srila Prabhupada would challenge us. Come on, seek higher. Like, in one lecture, Srila Prabhupada saw some ants. He said, see, you can see ants here in the room. What does this mean? That means ants are searching for food. And they're running, like you are running in your car. You Europeans in Europe, you Europeans ran to America during the gold rush period. There was a gold rush phase, where everyone was going to America thinking there is a lot of gold there. He said, how are you guys different from that ant in the room, which is also seeking food? You are also running. So Srila Prabhupada, by his transcendental vision, could see that we who are going to America, the land of opportunity to earn wealth, we are no different from ants in a room. That's the transcendental vision of a pure devotee of Krishna. So the suffering is common everywhere. And pure devotees like Srila Prabhupada encourage us to seek a higher purpose in life. I had one experience. I remember since I've been a young boy, very fascinated by Switzerland, Europe. And now because of Krishna conscious preaching, 2 years ago, I had an opportunity to go to Germany, Switzerland, and a few places in Europe. And I was in Zurich. And my host, Prabhuji, said, I'll take you to Gold Coast, which is where the wealthiest of Swiss people live. And he told me how many crores of rupees one house costs there, and how Roger Federer and Tina Turner, all the billionaires have their houses there. So I said, great, we'll go there. And I was thinking Switzerland is one of the wealthiest countries. And in Switzerland, there is a colony or an area which is, again, so wealthy. So I thought they must be really good. That must be a really good place. But when I went there, I was amazed that even there we saw beggars. Because there was one lady who was begging, and my host told me, Prabhu, we have to, this lady is begging, she'll come to us now. We were sitting on the side of a lake, and that's what happened. The lady came to us. It was amazing how even there is suffering. So we can't avoid this. And material world is made in such a way that we'll never get permanent solutions to our problems. And now we are talking about 2020. When I was reading a book, Walden, by Henry David Thoreau. Now this is considered by philosophers as the greatest book America has ever produced. Henry David Thoreau and Ralph Waldo Emerson and all these philosophers, they were very revolutionary in the 1840s and 1850s. They presented the Vedantic teachings in the modern language to the Americans. And Henry David Thoreau wrote a book called Walden, which is another story altogether. But in that book, he writes how he was living for 2 years near a pond called Walden at Massachusetts. So there, when he was staying, he had an experience that one day it was raining, and he went it was basically a forest area. He went to one small place to get some shelter during the rains, and he was talking to a man there. And that man was talking about his aspiration to go to New York, America, the main land America, and earn a lot of money and become wealthy. Henry David Thoreau writes how that this is 1840s. This is almost 180 years ago. But even then, people were materialistic. They wanted more. But that will not give us happiness. I remember once I was in Germany, and one lady in a park, one lady came to me and she was talking to me about her challenges in life. And I started laughing, and I apologized to her for laughing because she told me the problem she's having with her mother-in-law. And I said, oh, this is a problem we Indians also have. So wherever you go, a little bit of cosmetic changes on the external front, but we can't make cosmetic changes. This world is designed to give us repeated suffering. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada is appealing to us that let us develop love for Krishna. And in today's purport, he has quoted this beautiful verse, Brahmanda Brahmite Kona Bhagyavan Jeev Guru Krishna Prasade Pae Bhakti Lata Bij. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, while instructing Srila Rupa Goswami at Dashashwamedha the Ghat, he explained this verse that Brahmanda Brahmite, after wandering through 8.4 million species of life, Kona Bhagyavanji, one rare soul, he gets the mercy of Guru Krishna Prasade Pa, he gets the mercy of Guru and Krishna, and Bhakti Lata Bij, he gets that seed of Bhakti. So we all have been given the seed of Bhakti, otherwise we wouldn't be attending this class. The fact that we are chanting Hare Krishna means we all have been blessed with that seed of Bhakti. Now this is a treasure we all possess. Now it's our responsibility to take care of that seed of Bhakti and ensure that the seed becomes a beautiful plant, tree, and starts giving beautiful flowers which can be offered to Krishna and can help us go back home, back to God. Just like a seed needs a few things to become a tree, similarly the Bhakti Lata Bij to give us the fruit of love of Krishna also needs the same things. Just like the seed needs water every day. Similarly, we have to always keep doing this, what we are doing now, hearing and chanting. That is like watering the seed. But simply watering the seed will not help the seed become a beautiful tree. we also need good soil. You cannot plant a seed on a synthetic surface or on steel or on your tar road. No, on burning asphalt. You can't do that. You need proper soil. And then the water that you put on the seed will help it grow. Similarly, we need the soil of good association. We need a culture. We need a community of Vaishnavas who help us, who understand us, who empathize with us, and we can also serve them and experience Krishna in loving association of devotees. So we need both. Just like for the seed to fructify, it needs constant watering and a good soil. Similarly, we need constant hearing and chanting and good association of devotees. But also, Srila Prabhupada, quoting Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's instructions to Sanatana Goswami, we need to protect the seed of bhakti from a mad elephant that could come and trample upon it. We need a good fence. We need to protect. So therefore, we need to protect ourselves from Vaishnava aparadh. We need to guard against wrong behavior, judging devotees, fault finding, criticism mentality. This is the third thing that we need to we see. Basically, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wants us to become good gardeners, good mali. So we have been given the Bhakti Lata Bij. We all have been given a seed of bhakti by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Srila Prabhupada and our Guru. And now they are imploring us, become good gardeners. Take care of that seed. So we have a responsibility. We can't be reckless or we will lose it. We can't fry the seed in oil. Oh, it will lose all its potency. We have to plant it in a good soil, water it, and protect it from a fence. But these three things are not sufficient. We also have to do two more. The fourth thing that we need to do is we need to, when the seed is becoming a plant and it is growing, as the beautiful plant is growing, the branches are coming up, the leaves are coming up. The weeds also grow, the upashaka. The weeds, they have the potential to throttle the plant from growth. So an expert gardener is alert, and with the scissors, he keeps cutting the weeds that grow and they threaten the plant. So similarly, an expert gardener like devotee is introspective. He keeps checking his motivations and aspirations. And as he starts deviating, as he starts getting wrong kind of desires and wrong kind of aspirations, he checks his consciousness and he cuts the wrong desires. He is brutally honest about himself. He approaches devotees. He does menial service. And he ensures that these weeds of desire for name, fame, pride, honor, these don't grow and these don't throttle his bhakti. So these are the four. So just like the seed to grow and become a beautiful tree needs good water, good soil, good fence, and cutting of the weeds. Similarly, a devotee who has got the bhakti seed needs to water it with hearing and chanting, needs good association of devotees, needs to be very careful about Vaishnava offenses and criticism and protect his bhakti, and then be ruthlessly hard and cut the weeds of wrong aspirations, which appear to be just like bhakti, but they look like the plants growing. And as you are watering, the weeds are also getting watered. So therefore, cutting is very important. Otherwise, simply hearing and chanting will not be sufficient, because that hearing and chanting is also nursing our wrong desires. So therefore, we have to cut that. We have to be introspective. We have to be hardworking. And after all of this, the most important thing, the fifth thing that the seed needs as it is becoming a plant and as it is about to give flowers, it needs good sunlight. And sunlight is sun's causeless mercy. You can't say, hey, sun, come here. No. Similarly, after all the four things that we have done, we have to wait for the sunlight like causeless mercy of Krishna to descend on our hearts, by which we can then become blossom and grow. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says this tree should grow and it will grow up, it will break the material barriers and go to Golok Vrindavan and touch the lotus feet of Krishna. So we want to sincerely practice bhakti because we have been given this seed and this is our responsibility. And we are so blessed in ISKCON that we have got Srila Prabhupada's books, Srila Prabhupada's devotees, Srila Prabhupada's process. And when we take shelter of this process, we can experience Krishna's presence in our lives. And we can surely fulfill Srila Prabhupada's expectation from us, which he has mentioned in today's purport, which is to develop love for Krishna by understanding that this is a rare, special chance of a human form of life, And secondly, by practicing devotional service exclusively for the pleasure of Krishna. And we do this by taking care of this beautiful seed of bhakti which Sri Guru and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu have given us. And as Srila Prabhupada's sincere loyal followers, we want to nourish this seed of bhakti and give pleasure to Krishna and ensure that this is our last life in this material world. And after this, we want to go back home, back to Krishna. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. We can have some questions or comments now.
Hare Krishna, Vraja Bihari Das, Prabhuji. I'm so grateful for your session. I learned so much today. And one of my favorite parts was the last one that you talked about growing the plants. And we as devotees, like the seeds, and watering them. Sometimes the bad seeds or the bad desires get watered at the same time, and how we have to be so conscious. And it's amazing because when I first learned about Krishna consciousness, I had no plants. Then all of a sudden, literal plants, I start purchasing plants, and I will have so many plants. My daughter wants to get me a greenhouse. So I took it just like you said, we have to be so careful to cut those weeds. And even when you want something to bloom, some we have to trim it or tweak it. So when we're having a good association, I was thinking for myself, if a Mataji or Prabhuji says, Mataji, this, that, you need to do this, maybe you can improve on, I'd say thank you instead of saying, oh, I don't want to hear, So thank you so much. I love, that's my favorite example, Prabhuji. We thank you so much for being here today. You said you do have time for questions?
Yeah, I've got a few minutes. Yeah, I'll be happy to serve.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Would anyone like to ask any questions of Prabhuji today?
Yes. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandvat Pranam. Thank you so much for this very, very wonderful class, and so nice to see you again. Like, I got an opportunity to hear you live 2.5 years back, so it's so nice to see you again.
Thank you, Vamsidhari Gopal Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
No. Yes, Vamsidhari Gopal.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, Prabhuji, my question is that as per today's verse, and our ultimate goal is to develop love for Krishna. And we are following the instructions and whatever we discuss in this class today. But if I do introspection and I want to see that whether I am developing any love for Krishna or not, so is there any practical way to do that introspection and see whether I'm making any progress or not? Because for spiritual, I said that I asked this question before, and then I got an answer that if you are losing attraction for material enjoyment and material desires, then we think that we are on a right path, but that does not translate into love for Krishna. So
beautiful question, Prabhu. Yeah, I think every devotee in ISKCON desperately is looking for an experience of Krishna, because he's just like a materialistic person. Why does he keep doing business? Why does he keep going to office? If he's not going to get material reward, will he go?
No.
So that means there is some reward which is attracting him to pursue his material activities.
Right.
Similarly, if we want devotees in ISKCON to keep pursuing spiritual activities, they need to experience us spiritually. They need to get some reciprocation from Krishna.
Right.
And that is our responsibility as devotees, as preachers, to help devotees discover through a very systematic process of introspection that they are on the right track.
Right.
So what I would suggest, like this is what I do.
Mm-hmm.
You can also do this if you would like. Every day spend some time, maybe 5 minutes. Maybe I spend every day, honestly, I spend the first 10 minutes of my day, I call it as priming.
Mm-hmm.
Priming is, like you trigger something and then it starts ablaze.
Mm-hmm.
So this 10 minutes are exclusively for myself. I have my vision statement. Behind this curtain is my notice board in my room where I've got my vision put here, vision, my values and my goals. And I keep seeing it. I reflect on the previous day's activities. Oh, yesterday I did 15 things. Wow. And those were in alignment with my vision. So I kind of know where I am going. And this is one way. Second is, you ask yourself, in bhakti there are so many activities, 64 items.
Right.
Something gives you happiness, something gives you fulfillment. There are some activities in bhakti when you don't care about time.
Mm-hmm.
See, I know many devotees, they are very much worried about time and they're chanting their japa. They want to finish their 16 rounds. So definitely, japa is not giving them ecstasy.
Right.
Japa is more like a duty, a responsibility. Fine, no problem. Don't beat yourself. Don't keep criticizing yourself that I have no taste for chanting Hare Krishna. Fine. I mean, it's good to feel bad that we don't have taste for chanting Hare Krishna. But let us celebrate the fact that we all have some taste in something in bhakti. I know one devotee loves kirtan. So when he's in kirtan, he forgets time.
Mm-hmm.
I know one brahmachari friend of mine, during Gaur Purnima festival, morning 5 o'clock, he entered the temple hall and he was sitting there till night 9 o'clock. Blissful, chanting, then kirtan. So that is his bliss. So it's not easy. So like materialistic person may be absorbed in a Netflix series, he may be binge watching for 24 hours. So a devotee also needs something in bhakti. So we need to spend every day some time doing those activities which we love to do,
Mm-hmm.
so that we can then do our duties in bhakti which Srila Prabhupada has given us. Mm-hmm. So to be able to do what we have to do, we need to spend some time doing what we like to do.
Mm-hmm.
So when we do what we like to do, we get inspiration. When we do what we have to do, we get purified. Mm-hmm. Because chanting japa, we have to do, it purifies us. And we also have to do what is asked of us to do. Mm-hmm. And when it is asked of us to do, that helps us express gratitude for the gift we have been given of Krishna consciousness. A devotee cannot say, I will only do what I like to do, or I will only do what I have to do. If you do only what I like to do, then we are being ungrateful. Mm-hmm. And if you only do what I have to do, then we'll not be inspired. Mm-hmm. And if I only do what I'm asked to do, at some point of time I'll rebel. So devotee has to balance all the three. So we can spend some time every day doing things that really nourish you. Mm-hmm. Like for example, for me, it is journal writing. Mm-hmm. I mean, this may not be exactly like core devotional activity, but I like to worship deities. Mm-hmm. There are many things, which I get some chance. I like to sing bhajan. So today also in the class, I chanted some bhajan. So, something in bhakti which nourishes you. I know one devotee loves to appreciate other devotees. Mm-hmm. Now, I'll tell you very honestly, this may sound really ridiculous to you, but I can tell you this example. I know one devotee in our ashram. He's so sweet and simple-hearted. Last 15 years, I'm seeing him in the ashram. He's spontaneous. First time when I saw him appreciating somebody so much, I thought he's just faking it. Mm-hmm. Like, one devotee was going to the bathroom. We have one devotee who is very gracious and very gentle. He opens the bathroom door also very gently. So he opened the bathroom door to go inside, and this appreciating devotee started appreciating him so much. Oh, you are so nice, you are so sensitive. I was thinking, what the hell is he saying? But today, after 15 years, I see him. This is how he is. He is wired to only see good. And he cannot sleep at night without appreciating at least 5 to 10 devotees. Mm-hmm. So he may not be a great Bhagavad Kathakar, he may not be a great book distributor, but he is enjoying appreciating devotees. Mm-hmm. Some people are very happy distributing books. Mm-hmm. So let us all experience Krishna in our own unique ways. Mm-hmm. Krishna loves to see variety. Mm-hmm. And so please, I would answer your question by saying a few things. One is find out what are those activities where you forget time.
Right.
Bhakti activities, and pursue those. And at the same time, balance it with what you like to do, what you have to do, and what you're asked to do.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. It was very, very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Does anyone else have any questions for His Grace?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dhanavad pranams. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Very wonderful class. I like the way how you shared Srila Prabhupada carrying out the mood of his Guru Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada and not compromising on the eternal need, urgency of Krishna consciousness to temporary social needs. Thank you for observing that and giving so many anecdotes on that. So Prabhuji, I wanted to thank you also for your last time when you came here in this forum. You spoke about, I think, how to not have this critical mentality, and you had a list of points when somebody is doing something wrong, how to go through it. It helped me. I mean, I wouldn't say that I was 100% successful, but at least I remembered and tried to apply few points. But I forgot to take down all the points, Prabhuji. So is there, can you share that with us again if you know it, or you can send it in the group later?
Yeah, we can. There is a devotee called Abhishek Patil Prabhu. He has that link of that lecture. He has recorded that last class. He can send you that class link. And I'm sure I will through Shama Gauri Mataji, I will give you Abhishek Prabhu's details, and you can then connect with him, and he will send you the link of that lecture also. Basically, those points where, there are eight ways to avoid mental offenses, I had said. One is to say he or she is also right, to see how other devotees are also right. Then second, sometimes we see they're still doing wrong, Then I said, we need to remember he doesn't know what is right. It's possible that they don't know what is right. He is also right. He doesn't know what is right. Then I said the third thing, the end result is right. Sometimes they may do something wrong now, but then the end result is right. And then fourth, I don't know what is right. Because sometimes we are very tiny. We don't know the larger picture. And then there was pray for the right, or write the right. Like that, there are 8. I remember only 6 or 7 now. But yeah, I need to spend some time and I can put it down on paper. But yeah, we may not remember all of it all the time. But the principle was don't criticize devotees. Oh, those techniques were just spontaneous.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. That really helps because you have applied it and churned and applied it, and you're giving us, and it's helping us to apply the principles. Thank you for your association, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.